So at that point, you pretty much blacked out, or you have no memory recall because you were that drunk.
Yes, I was.
And then shortly after that, you find out you're pregnant. That don't come see their children because they don't want to deal with a woman that acts like you. I'm keeping it real. But it's not because it's wrong or right. It's just because it's a reality of how relationships are.
I honestly don't remember, Your Honor. The only reason I remember the ex is because of it being on the day of the car wreck.
And then you remembered you'd also had sex with him 2 days before.
Yes.
First on the list of psycho women on paternity court is the case between Harris and Sterling. Ms. Sterling and Mr. Harris have been in an on and off relationship for the past 15 years. Ms. Harris is in court today to get Mr. Sterling to step up as the father of her 11-month-old son, Kason. Mr. Harris, on the other hand, states that he is not the biological father and is in fact tired of raising another man's child.
You've come to get the DNA proof you need to remove your name from the birth certificate and finally get Ms. Harris out of your life. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
What could possibly have happened between these two to get him to say something like that? That statement is enough to get one thinking about Ms. Harris. Now we find out why he's bent on stating that Kason isn't his.
That's not my baby, and I'm going off of what Charity is telling me.
First of all,
what did she tell you?
It is his baby, and he knows it's his baby.
That is not the truth.
What
It
did
is
she
his
tell you?
baby.
She tells me when we get to arguing, this is not your baby. And
Yeah,
you need...
because he get on my nerves, and I don't want him to be in my life.
Oh, what a juicy reveal. We don't have to think about what Ms. Harris is capable of. It's right there. Now that it seems like the spotlight is on Ms. Harris, we get to see one reason why she's so mean to Mr. Sterling about the whole paternity thing.
About him not being the
So
father.
you're saying
Yana.
even before you said this, he was not stepping up to the plate.
And he was cheating the whole time I was pregnant. He
That's
was
a
cheating.
negative.
Now, everything about that sounds wrong. The judge concluded that although that is completely wrong, it still doesn't concern the paternity of the baby. The most important concern here is if Ms. Harris was seeing other people. Mr. Sterling had quite a lot to say about that.
So now the first date on this calendar says the doctor's appointment was on March 21st. And the doctor says that Ms. Harris is 6 to 8 weeks pregnant. And you had sex on Valentine's Day. So now, if we count back 6 to 8 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, that is the last week in January.
This is the major reason Mr. Sterling has doubts in the first place. That's aside from the fact that Ms. Harris says that Kazan isn't his every chance she gets.
When she was 8 months pregnant, she told me that it was another guy who could be the baby's father, and it broke my heart.
First of all, that's a lie.
What happened?
We had an argument, and she just brung that up. I don't know if she was mad or what, but whatever
What happened?
it is.
Tell me the story.
What a woman! That's her card for each argument they have, it would seem. As it turns out, that's not the whole story. The couple gave the court more tea. Here is the drama they had to add.
She said, don't worry, you not my baby's father anyway, so you need to like go on, kick rocks, get on with your life or whatever. I'm like, what? Like, we were just together. I was just, you know, the baby's father and everything, but now
Did
all
she
of a
tell
sudden
you
get
when?
mad.
Your
Did
girlfriend.
she tell you when she was with this other guy?
Yes, 2 weeks before we had sex on February 14th.
Hearing Ms. Harrison laugh at the end of each statement this man makes has to be unnerving. More so, if she said all these things to him during an argument or whatnot, why is she so bent on Mr. Sterling being the father? She already mentioned multiple times in the past that he wasn't. She gave explicit details too, apparently.
You're now saying if we count
'Cause you
2
ain't gonna make
weeks
me look like-
before the time when you were intimate with her, which is February 14th, 2 weeks before that would be around the first week in February, last week of January. You're saying it puts the window right at the time when she claimed she was intimate with somebody else.
If it adds up this good, we just have to hear directly from the horse's mouth if everything on the calendar happened. The following conversation ensued.
Miss Harris, did you have sex with another man 2 weeks before you had sex with Mr. Sterling?
It wasn't
on the
2 weeks.
court?
Yeah,
It was
true.
like 3 weeks. It was like not even 3 weeks.
So it's 2 to 3 weeks before you were intimate with
100.
Mr. Sterling. You were intimate with another man.
The way she says that so casually is quite hilarious, really. Of course, the judge has a question for Ms. Harris.
No, because it was not a possibility because I did not have unprotected sex with this man like I did with Chris when I conceived.
So you never
So
told
he didn't tell you that part.
So you did have sex with the other guy, but you used protection.
Yeah.
That's what
What an interesting turn of events. Everything is against Ms. Harris at this point. All the evidence is currently not in her favor. Mr. Sterling adds to the heat by telling the court how he feels about Ms. Harris.
So
We here today for a reason,
Things
because
happen.
she is
Either you're
lying,
the dad or
because she
you're not.
is a liar. That's the reason we here today. And
Exactly,
the
because you're
problem
a
is-
liar and you need to step
No,
up pretty
listen,
much.
I don't want to take care of another man's child.
You want to take
I
care
don't-
of the children
Yes, I
that's
do.
yours.
Yes,
you
I
don't
do.
take
I
care
love
of
him.
yourself.
I love that
So don't
little boy,
sit
and
here
you
and
know
take-
that.
Don't sit here
You
and
know
flex
that.
like you just
You
don't
know
want to
that.
take
That's
care
the
of
reason
another
you
man,
want me
baby.
to be the
First
baby
of
daddy.
all,
The trust issues he has towards this woman is alarming. Would it be wrong to call it far-fetched? I mean,
So she asks a very good question, Mr. Sterling. If you had this doubt, when the baby came and you were at the hospital, why execute the birth certificate if you know you have doubt?
The thing about it, Your Honor, like at the 8 months when we got into it over the argument, I thought it was just because she might have been mad. Maybe she did just say this out of
you
the
know
side
you
of her.
cheated and you lied and you wrong.
despite the drama between the two, it seems like there's still a bit of sentiment between the couple. Here is what Mr. Sterling said he did during her pregnancy.
Miss Harris, I'm not laughing.
Old feet,
I was
baby.
there.
But get what?
I
Get
rubbed
what?
them big
You
old
was-
feet.
You were up my.
But,
okay.
but listen,
Come on,
listen,
man.
no,
Come on, man.
We're not laughing at you, Miss Harris. I'm laughing with you though because I was just looking at some old pictures when I was
Man, that's
8,
what
9
I'm
months
trying to-
pregnant, and I mean
Listen.
my feet were huge.
Oh, I was
Like it's
sexy
crazy.
pregnant.
It was
I was
crazy.
sexy and I own.
What a duo. Now it's time for some real talk before the results come in. Mr. Sterling tells us what he really feels about the whole situation.
Mr. Sterling, what is your hope? I still don't really understand whether you want Kason to be your biological child or whether you don't.
He don't understand nothing.
I do, Your Honor. I done grown bond with him. Like, he calls me daddy. He's the one, like, I'm always looking for.
But you ain't gotta do all that. You
Wrong,
save
bro.
all that drama for your mom, baby.
So
This
you-
ain't lifetime.
Wrong,
But
As one would expect, Ms. Harris did not let him speak. She had her own things to add.
Another
Move
man,
on
baby.
back to your previous relationship that you just last week got caught.
I hope
Still
he
trying
mine.
to
I
hold
hope
on to
he,
these
in
folks,
a
man,
sense,
please.
I hope he mine. You know what I'm saying? Like, not because of her for real. I just
doing
want the
too much. I'm
results so
sorry.
I can move on with my life. If he mine or he not,
Goodbye.
I just want to go about it the right way.
I'm ready to go to the result.
He even got really emotional. Now, we get to hear the results, and everyone can get what they were waiting for.
Mr. Sterling, you are the father.
Exactly. So what you gotta say now,
You
baby?
are his father.
All this next. See, you know, we gotta leave here. You know that, right?
Nobody saw that one coming, not even Mr. Sterling, especially not him. As one would expect, Ms. Harris had her own thing to say. Judge Lake also held a counterattack.
There are men that don't come see their children because they don't want to deal with a woman that acts like you. I'm keeping it real. But it's not because it's wrong or right. It's just because it's a reality of how relationships are. I can see how frustrated you are. I've heard exactly what you
He's a liar
said.
and he cheat.
But the point, I get that.
That's why our relationship and
Let me
dynamic
tell-
is like that.
You think I don't get that?
This is one funny case, and unlike many others, it is between husband and wife. Also, unlike many others, this is not their first rodeo. Mrs. Hendricks previously accused Mr. Hendricks of being unfaithful on couples court.
She was naked on the bed, and Chris was in there.
Oh, I'm perfectly aware of what's at stake.
There's the girls and then the baby. I mean,
You're expecting?
yeah, I'm
Oh
6
my.
months.
Mr. Hendricks was asked, had he had sex with his ex? What was his response?
His response was no.
Now, the tables have turned, and Mr. Hendricks is accusing his wife of cheating. Not only that, but he believes she has a baby for another man as well.
Mr. Hendricks, you say you confirmed your wife has been unfaithful and there is no way her child is yours. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you're also petitioning the court for a lie detector test to determine the extent of your wife's cheating.
Well, that's a first. Mrs. Hendricks is not having any of it because she believes that the baby looks so much like him. She goes on to call the baby his twin to buttress her point. It's interesting that she's so confident about her husband's semblance to a 1-month-old baby. But oh well.
And you don't think he has any reason to deny the child?
No, I mean, I was very honest with him with what happened before, and he has taken it to the extent of denying our son.
After saying that she has done everything her husband wants from her regarding the child, including a circumcision and naming the baby after him. This is what Mr. Hendricks has to say.
I don't feel that bond like I do with my other children. I mean,
I even named him after your dad. I mean,
He barely looks like me. I'm not seeing any characteristics. He don't have any of my personal features. I don't know.
You must
I'm
be
not
blind.
I'm not seeing it as well as the others.
So he feels some sort of bond with his other kids, but right now, he's not feeling it with baby Christopher. For him, that's enough reason to doubt the paternity of the baby. Going back back to the beginning, what caused all of this drama in the first place?
His Facebook messages were coming to my phone, and it was one of his coworkers, and she was saying very sexual things to him. About 10 days later, I had found out that I had endometrial cancer, and I had gotten real sick. And
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
well, I'm in remission now. Thank
Thank God. Yes. Amen.
And whenever I was diagnosed with all of that, I just got very upset.
Well, oh boy, she's ill, and all of that happened within that short time frame. What an unfortunate time it must have been. Right now, Mrs. Hendricks does not trust her husband. Alongside this, she has a diagnosis of cancer that has her living life a bit too fast, since she believes she's just got a death sentence. Mr. Hendricks has something to add to the mix.
Partying
Refusing
and
to come
doing
home.
things that refusing to come home.
She never came home.
At night?
Never. She'd
I
always
would
stay
be at my family member's
She'd stay at
house.
family member's house.
You knew
drink
where I
until early in
was.
the morning.
I mean, I'm a very predictable person.
You would come home long enough to change your clothes, take a shower, leave again.
What a spicy addition. Now it seems like a butterfly effect makes their home an unsafe space for everybody.
Where I
And it was so
because-
uncomfortable with our past and with our life that I didn't even stay in the house. I took our car and I wound up driving around town, wasting gas, falling asleep in it on dirt roads because I couldn't go
Well,
home.
maybe.
Mr. Hendricks is not the only victim here. Mrs. Hendricks fills the court in on all their business and what happened after the diagnosis.
Maybe when I got the phone call whenever I had cancer, you told me, well, with everything's going on, should I care?
Wait a minute. Did you say that, Mr. Hendricks?
To an extent.
No, those were his exact words.
To an extent.
Oh, now that's cruel.
We
So
were-
you all were in a very bad place.
We were
It was bad.
we were fighting very bad. I mean, that was, like I said,
Judge Lake took the words right out of everyone's mouth. Now it makes sense that they don't trust each other anymore. Mr. Hendricks is asking for a lie detector test on Mrs. Hendricks, and she's adding that he completely denied their baby. It's beginning to add up.
Were this pattern she developed, going out, drinking, not coming home, this is the behavior that you felt indicated that she potentially could be sleeping with somebody else.
This was where Mr. Hendricks explained the origin of his trust issues. After they tried resolving their problems, they threw a little party at their house, which involved some drinking. Here, the family member who she lived with spilled the beans to Mr. Hendricks. The person confirmed that she indeed was with another man.
And the family member looked at her and said, you're a bull-faced liar. You came to my house that very next night and said you did it.
I hadn't.
Now,
That
she-
you slept with
that she
somebody
had
else?
Sexual relations with this other gentleman.
That did not come from me. That came from a family member that I was around. You know that.
But at the same time, she keeps telling
But-
everybody she was too drunk that she don't remember if anything happened or
I
not.
did say that.
It keeps getting hotter and hotter here. Seeing as we've been hearing just one side of the story, it's time we heard Mrs. Hendricks and all she has to say about everything.
Had started a bonfire and everything. One of his friends that he'd hung out with and worked with came over. While we were hanging out, we were drinking whiskey, and I had ended up kissing him. And I immediately called him and asked him to come and get me. And I told him what happened, and he said, "Where are you?" I told him. He came, and he ended up leaving without me. And I remember up to that point, and then after that, I don't. I mean, I don't remember because I kept drinking.
She remembers kissing him in the kitchen, though.
I do.
The pair of them are really something. Now, if Mrs. Hendricks cannot remember everything that happened that night, what can one do?
Started doubting it right off the bat.
Why?
Because we went through extensive fertility medicine to have our 4-year-old daughter. Tried for 5 years. Unprotected sex. No, nothing. So 4 years after we have our first daughter, she winds up pregnant just out of the blue. After our little issues and after she goes and starts visiting and hanging out.
As it would turn out, there's more to the story. What are the odds that she would wind up pregnant at this particular point in time? Mrs. Hendricks explains further how this may be possible.
I don't find that fair whenever he's bringing up the treatments I went through, because I was 170 pounds more, and the doctor even told you if I'd lose weight, it'd be a lot easier for me to get pregnant.
But you didn't for 4 years. And then you have the surgery.
It's
you
not
go
like
you go on a little party
It's
rant.
straightforward, so.
You start hanging out with another guy, and then all of a sudden you wind up pregnant. You don't find that funny at all.
Now, what do we do? After a series of back and forth, we get even more into the story of these two. Before Mrs. Hendricks came to term, they paid for a 4D ultrasound of the baby, where they already started the comparison between father and son. Mr. Hendricks really was so bothered about all of this.
You don't see a
No.
blob, that's a baby.
Well, you can see the nose and eyes, but it was
Yeah.
too early. It was kind of a waste of money.
But your
do it so
point
early.
is that you were that worried about it.
Oh, I was very concerned. I wanted to know right then.
I mean, we fought over this. I mean, we fought over these pictures so much because he's like, I don't think he looks like me. I said, how do you figure? I mean,
You know it's bad when you
Very thick.
evaluating a baby in the womb.
Finally, the results are out. This was the conclusion of the case.
Mr. Hendricks, you are the father.
told you had no reason. I mean, you didn't need to doubt me.
Miss Hendricks, he did. And there was reason
It was
to doubt.
there. I'm sorry.
We got the
it was
answer
there.
we wanted.
Again, with husband and wife, this case is everything. Mr. and Mrs. Kiesel are married, and Mrs. Kiesel is currently pregnant. Her husband is here in court to save their marriage and prove that the baby is his. Mrs. Kiesel, on the other hand, has strong doubts about the paternity of the baby, and she believes it's not his.
Mrs. Kiesel, you say it breaks your heart to stand in court to prove that your husband is not your unborn child's father, but you know the truth. Another man is.
Mr. Kiesel adds that today's results are so important because his marriage has been on the line. Mrs. Kiesel cheated on him a month into their marriage, resulting in them being here today.
And heartbreak and lots of issues for us.
So you're supposed to still be in the honeymoon, newlywed phase. And instead of that, you have a paternity issue.
1 month. Isn't that the wildest thing? Mrs. Kiesel went on to explain how all of this is affecting them both, from their marriage to the pregnancy itself.
It has affected me in a huge way, not only just our marriage, but my pregnancy as well, because it's hard for me to necessarily, I mean, yes, I'm excited for it, but it makes it harder when there's so much stress put into the pregnancy. Rather than being everybody together, having a good time for like a baby shower, say we were supposed to have a baby shower.
She adds that inasmuch as she made mistakes and she owns up to the mistakes she's made, it's affecting her, and she is unable to enjoy the pregnancy like a mother should. Judge Lake cut her off by asking her the important questions.
I need to ask you this. What in the world would possess you to cheat on your husband 1 month?
Yes, it's quite mind-boggling. If you're cheating after just 1 month of a marriage, it's like there's no point of the marriage in the first place. What a woman. She has this to say.
Really rushed into a relationship. We had been dating on and off, but it was back and forth with my ex and him. We both have broke up a couple of times over while we were dating. And then when we got married, it just was kind of like a let's go do this kind of thing. It was like, let's do it today. So we did, and I just feel like we might have got married a little too young. Not necessarily young, but quick.
Wow, she wasn't over him, huh? How stressful that must have been for her. Poor Mrs. Kiesel. To make things worse, she and her husband have been trying so hard for a baby, bad enough that they took a test at least once a week.
And at first I was really, happy and excited. And then just a couple seconds later, it hit me that I'm about to have to tell him something, no husband wants to hear.
So you found out you were pregnant first, and then you knew you had to tell your husband.
Yes.
Because you knew there was a possibility this other man could also be, your ex could be the child's biological father.
Your Honor.
Putting the spotlight away from Mrs. Kiesel and back to Mr. Kiesel, here is his own side of the story.
So we had been taking a test once a week, and I happened to take one, and it was positive. And at first I was really, happy and excited. And then just a couple seconds later, it hit me that I'm about to have to tell him something, no husband wants to hear.
So you found out you were pregnant first, and then you knew you had to tell your husband.
Yes.
What a heartbreaking moment it must have been. To further add to drama, Mrs. Kiesel told the court about her conception window, which is the estimated time period the baby was conceived, so as to know what man is the biological father of the child. She said it was March 8th. Watch this.
And now, Mr. Kiesel, when were you intimate with your wife?
We were intimate on the 8th.
You were?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so that's gonna be a K for Mr. Kiesel. I gotta ask you this, Ms. Kiesel, when were you intimate with your ex? Which day?
The 7th and the 9th.
Without a doubt, the dates being so close in proximity further fuels doubt about the paternity of this baby.
Do you remember being intimate with your husband on March 8th?
I honestly don't remember, Your Honor.
And so the truth is, you don't even remember being intimate with your husband on March the 8th, but you do remember sleeping with your ex on the 7th and the 9th. When were you intimate with your wife?
We were intimate on the 8th.
Now, would you look at that? She knows those dates too well. Who knows what would have happened on the 8th if he were around? Adding salt to the injury, she further stated that she does not remember being intimate with her husband on the yacht. However, look at the amount of detail she gave about her ex. Again, what a woman.
You believe, despite these dates being so close in proximity, that you are the child's father.
Mr. Kiesel is choosing to have so much faith in this. Judge Lake asked why he does, and he began to state similarities between him and the unborn baby, starting from their nose shape down to the shape of their upper lips. What a man, really. Mrs. Kiesel went on to say that she hopes Mr. Kiesel is the father and she wants their marriage to work. That's an interesting statement from a woman that cheated a month from her wedding day.
And how does it make you feel that your wife is saying, I don't think you are the father?
That hurts extremely bad seeing that I'm there. Instead of it just being, you might not be the father, she's saying she thinks I'm not. And that dampens the mood between us.
What a mood dampener that must be. After telling the court that he needs this baby to be his, and his wife keeps saying that the baby isn't, what an interesting mood dampener indeed. Finally, the results are in. Since the baby hasn't been born yet, a prenatal DNA test was performed. Here are the results.
Mr. Kiesel, you are the father. I know that has to feel good.
A little bit.
How's it feel, sir?
Amazing.
I'm so happy for you. And I know those are tears of joy. And I can imagine you have cried the other kinds of tears.
Ms. Adams has been in a relationship for 13 years. When they break up, she gets with another man about 2 months after.
I had separated. When we separated, was kind of going through my vulnerable stage and things like that. I had went out actually one day, to the bar, and that's when I had met Markeith. And when I met Markeith, that's when we started, having dealings with each other and things like that.
All right, so you were in a long-standing relationship.
Yes.
And then you broke up.
Yes.
Interesting turn of events. In addition, Ms. Adams was not intimate with her ex during this period. Mr. Spencer was the only man she had dealings with. However, after she got pregnant and had twin baby girls, her ex is claiming the children, calling them his babies. How did we get here?
Once I had the babies, the pictures went out on the internet, and that's when my ex-mother called me and said that those are my grandbabies. They look just like my son.
And so once she said that, had you been thinking of that in the back of your mind all this time? Never.
Never. I was starting to hear it so much, and I was getting so many phone calls from my ex side of the family and everything about the boy.
Oh well, here we go again with the semblance business. If I had a penny for each time they take a bet on paternity simply because the baby resembles the supposed father's baby pictures.
I'm just like, whoa, I never thought that Marquis was not the father, but then, she was just telling me, oh, Christian, put 2 and 2 together, just think about it. It don't make sense. You already had the babies early, so you could have been already pregnant when you was messing with Mr. Spencer. She was just, saying things like that and stuff. So then I started saying, well, you know what, you never know. And I was also just going off of emotion and knowing I was still in love.
Fair enough. Some people try to use special holidays to get back into their ex's lives via text. Christian Adams, however, plans to use twin babies. What a woman.
After I had the babies, Marquis was around for the first month. Throughout that whole month, it was like so much drama with his ex, so much drama with him. It was like...
So there were other people on both sides. Since they were not in a committed relationship, it's very plausible. Now Adams' ex called her and they had an interesting conversation.
Those babies are mine. Is that true? I said that I knew that they was Marquis. I said, but to this point, you just never know. Just come back, because I want you to come back regardless, and we could just start over. And once that happened, he said, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and come back. Once he came back, without a shadow of a doubt, I didn't even want to deal with Marquis at all.
All right, so once your ex came back, you were done with Mr. Spencer because you really wanted to be with your ex.
Yes.
So she lied to Markeith and his ex about DNA test results that they never did. Oh, the lengths a woman would go to get back with her ex she's in love with.
And I seen pictures of her tagging Mitchell's mom as a grandkids. And you telling me this whole time these was my kids.
And what did she say?
She was like, oh, I ain't tell them that. Mitchell just automatically assumed these was his kids. She told me that, he automatically came back and was like, oh, them my kids, I'm gonna be taking care of them kids.
He must have been so stunned by all of this. Well, in court today, we have Mitchell, the ex's mother, and possible grandmother to the twins to tell her own side of the story.
The first week that they was born, Kristen's mom called me. So she said by now, look, take a look at the babies. Look at these pictures. Something ain't right. So she sent me the pictures. So I'm like, oh my God. So I went looking for some of Mitchell's baby pictures, and I started sending them through the family. And the family's like, oh my God, these Mitchell's babies. So as I talked to Kristen, are you sure?
After so much drama and pent-up emotions, the results are finally in. This time, because they are fraternal twins, there is a high chance that they are children of different men. Hence, there are 2 DNA results. Now, the results are...
Is the father of 1-year-old Kamariana Adams Spencer. It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Spencer.
What a turn of events. Now, for baby Kamarian, we get to find out the results.
Kamarian Adams Spencer. It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Spencer.
Oh boy, Ms. Adams sure won't be happy about this one. Everyone's emotional. Mr. Spencer has something to say to conclude the case.
Mr. Spencer, you are the biological father. What are you feeling in this moment?
Like if she knew like them was my kids all this time, like you should never not allow me to build that relationship with them.
I will say that we have to count our blessings, and the children are only 13 months. And you do have the time and the opportunity to establish a bond with them and to be there for them.